Hello everyone and welcome to Vietnam Talk. If you're new on board and don't know who I am, my name is Brian Hjort. I'm the founder, director of Father Founded. If you don't know who Father Founded is, well, we help American military veterans to look for each other. And I've been away from this channel for quite a while, but now I'm back again. And I have some very interesting people I want to do some interview about and with. It has some very interesting stories, and I hope you're gonna like it because I'm super excited. And this first story I call the Unknown Heroes. So why do we call it Unknown Heroes? Well, we go back all the way back to the end of the war. Imagine Saigon surrounded by the North Vietnamese army. People try to get away by helicopter, airplanes, all the famous photos. The street is full of chaos, and in the end, the only way to get out is by Saigon River, go up by boats to the big ocean, and hopefully somebody gonna pick you up and sail you away. And on this first episode, we're gonna focus on one specific ship named SS American Challenger. And so what can we say about this? This ship had space for a lot of people, and it decided to come up to the coast of Vietnam to pick up 9,000 Vietnamese people. 9,000 is a lot of people. And it was only thanks to one Captain Arthur Boucher, who had decided to help all those people. And he's kind of the unknown heroes because maybe only the Vietnamese and those people he saved know his name and his life. And now I had a chance to talk to his son, who's going to share his story about his unknown father, who's a hero for us, hero for the Vietnamese, and he saved all those people's lives. So it's part of the Vietnam conflict you don't hear about, but I think we need to hear this story because it's an amazing story, and even the legacy of his father still lives among all those Vietnamese who now live in America. So please bring it on to his son and have a good time. Okay, so we're back again. Okay, first of all, David, welcome on board. I'm really happy you had the time talking to me. It means a lot. And David, would you like to present yourself? Who are you? Where you're living, and what are you doing?
Okay. Yes, my name is David Boucher. I live outside of Washington, D.C., just about 10 to 12 kilometers away. And I've been living here for about 40 years, but mostly throughout my life, I've lived on the East Coast. I'm currently 77 years old.
Wow. So David, now we hear a little bit about your life story. Now we're going to hear the story about your father, Arthur, because he has a story that nobody has in this world. I mean, I've been working with Vietnam since 1992. I met many interesting people and hear many interesting stories about heroes who fought in the war, people who escaped, people who work as a journalist, people who stay behind in the war in Vietnam. But your father is like what we call an unknown hero because some people know him, especially those 23,000 Vietnamese plus their children and their grandchildren. But not everybody know about your father. Now it's 50 years ago, the war ended in Saigon, and your father came and helped all those people who want to get away by small boats. And when we saw it on the news and on television, all the sad photos of people who had lost everything. So tell me the story about your father. How come he ended up doing what he did?
Okay. Actually, I'll start with my father. He was in the Merchant Marines. He joined the Merchant Marines in 1941. He went to the Merchant Marine Academy. It's called Kings Point. And he graduated in 1944. And from that time on, he was on ships. He was either a deck officer or chief officer or a captain all the way through. He He eventually retired in 1981, but and I think he's been on close to 40 different ships.
Wow.
He was captain on all the cargo ships, except at the beginning during World War II, he was a chief officer,
Wow.
second in command of the Liberty ships during World War II. And in
Wow.
fact, we have pictures of his ships that he was either captain of or chief officer of, where the entire ship was loaded with troops being transported back and forth to Europe during the war.
That's even a more dangerous trip because it had all the German submarines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was on a Victory ship,
Mm.
and I have all the records of all that information because I found out all that information probably in the last 4 or 5 years because we found out that all merchant mariners that participated during World War II
Mhm.
uh, won a Congressional Gold Medal.
Wow.
So,
For heroism
yeah,
and
yeah. So they awarded the Congressional Gold Medal on Capitol Hill about 3 years ago,
wow.
and in order for him to get it, I had to get all his records together and send it in. And by getting all his records, I was able to find out every ship he was on, every rank he was on at the time, the time frames of those trips, and he was on over 350 different trips. And between in the 1950s, he was second in command. Did you ever hear the ship, the SS United States?
It doesn't ring a bell. I'm not really that good into ships. I know hear about the ships your father went on and the USS Midways and some of the big
Yeah,
ships,
well, the SS United States was the fastest passenger ship ever to cross the
Wow.
Atlantic, and
Wow.
he was second in command of that. And he did that for about 3 or 4 years, and then he asked to be put on container ships or freighters because being second in command on a passenger ship is a lot more requirements.
Hmm.
Because if the captain doesn't want to go to dinner with his
Hmm.
guests, guess who has to go in his place?
I know.
The second in command.
Oh my
So
God.
not only does he have to stay out till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, he has to get up at 4 o'clock because he's second in command.
Wow. So you have to take the hard work.
Yeah, so he basically said that was enough. So that's when he started getting on the container ships and cargo ships, and he started traveling on. He was the captain of the SS American Challenger
Uh-huh.
in 1967.
Wow.
So he stayed on that as captain until the end of 1975.
Wow. But did he went into Vietnam during the
Yeah,
war with containers and a
yeah.
lot of
During
food and
Yeah, basically what happened was between 1967 and 1975, when he was there, he was his ship was on under contract under what they call a military sea lift command.
yeah, I hear
That's
about
part of
that.
the yeah, that's part of the U.S. Navy.
Hmm.
And so his ship was contracted to ship uh, equipment, tanks,
Hmm.
jeeps, all that, back and forth to Vietnam.
Wow. So he been to Vietnam many times doing that during the war.
Oh yeah, yeah, he
Wow.
was there. And what happened was, I think it was in March of 1975,
Yeah.
he received a telegram
Hmm.
from the Department of Navy, and they said they sent him a telegram as well as several other uh, commercial ships
Mm-hmm.
to go to Saigon immediately to help
Wow.
in the evacuation. Because at that time he was unloading equipment in Korea,
Wow.
and they said, get the stuff off and then come to uh, Vietnam. So the first trip he was asked to go to Da Nang,
Oh, yeah.
and his ship was the second ship to arrive. The first ship got there the night before, and I think it was either the Pioneer, Contender, or Commander. I can't remember. But they picked up 16,000 refugees
That's
that
great. I
evening.
hear that was that during that time, Da Nang was pure riots because a lot
Yeah.
of the people was not really refugees. There was South Vietnamese soldiers who went AWOL, deserters, and on board on the ships, people got raped, and there was shootings and
Oh, yeah.
violence.
Yeah. There's a number of stories that not only the first officer told me about, but my dad told me about.
Mm.
He had a couple. It turns out when they came the next day,
Mm.
they ended up going to, I think it was Cameron Bay. And
Mm.
that's when the chaos really started.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that first trip, I believe it was like 9,000 people. But he had, in addition to Vietnamese refugees, he also, and he didn't realize this at the time, but he also had Viet Cong on the
Wow.
ship.
Wow. And nobody, I never heard that story that Viet Cong want to go away on by boats.
Yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
there was a couple times where, luckily, they had Vietnamese army on board to help,
Hmm.
and they ended up. There was one Vietnamese military guy on his ship that was going to try to kill the Viet Cong
Wow.
on the ship.
Wow.
And the first officer said, nobody gets shot on this ship. And so they ended up having to pull a ship over in a dock. And at that time, then the Vietnamese army guy took the Viet Cong off the ship, shot him, and then they
Wow.
got back on the ship and left.
Wow. But I had a question. Your father, he was never afraid during that time. I mean, they had the riots on board of the ship. There was not too many Americans on those ships, and at least no American soldiers, no security, just the people who work on the ships. That's all.
Yeah, and there's not that many people on their crew. I mean, granted, the crew members, I think normally there's only two pistols.
Wow.
I know my father had one in his safe,
Uh-huh.
and I think the chief officer had one in his safe.
Wow.
That's all they normally had. So obviously, when they brought on the refugees, uh, some of them were Vietnamese officers, so they had to confiscate a lot of the guns and hand grenades and things of that nature. And they ended up,
But your father during that time, he took those people from Da Nang to Saigon, right? Or to
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
no,
train because they lift
no,
them
yeah,
up and
he
took
went,
the
yeah,
military away.
yeah, they first went to Cameron Bay, picked
Mm-hmm.
up the people, and then
Mm-hmm.
I think they went to Guam
All right.
with those people. Then they came back and got more people in
Mm-hmm.
Saigon, down the Saigon River, and then they evacuated them out of there. I mean, there were several different trips for
Mm-hmm.
a total of 23,000 Vietnamese in all his trips. I think there's three trips total. Uh,
Wow.
and one was uh, a religious congregation
Oh,
led by
wow.
a priest. And I don't know if you saw some of the pictures, but the priest was carrying out a mass
Wow.
while they were on board his ship.
That sounds like a movie, that sounds like straight out from Apocalypse Now or something
Yeah,
like that. A priest having a religious ceremony in the middle of the war zone.
yeah, it was. It's interesting. I wasn't aware of this, obviously, till he came home. Uh,
Wow. But if I
and
mean,
it
if
was
I mean, like I say,
interesting
your
to
father is
know.
an unknown hero because during that time he dared to sail in this ship in the Saigon River. I mean, remember Saigon was surrounded by the North Vietnamese army and the Viet Cong, and the only way in and out was doing the air bases, the airports, and by the helicopter pads, and then go into the Saigon River and take people in and out. But during that time, I mean, he had no idea they're going to bombard the ships, so they're going to block the rivers. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I mean, it was. It's interesting. This lasted for about from March until uh, end of May, or not? No, middle of May.
In middle of May,
And
because what I read that the last people who got evacuated were from Vung Tau in the early of May, and there was people who worked for the CIA.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
hear.
That was the last group.
And your father took them out too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
And all Americans worked for the CIA
yeah,
after the fall of Saigon.
yeah,
That's crazy because that's one of the stories a lot of people don't know, but I read that. In Vung Tau, the U.S. had like a CIA base, listening base, and it took people to the Vung Tau to sail them out, and some of them stayed behind, and they left about 1st of May or something like that.
yeah, yeah. I know. I know when he came home, he said it was very sad for him.
Yeah.
It was emotionally sad because families were being broken up.
Mm.
Some tried to get on the ship, and others could not get on the ship, and they were screaming, howling, crying, and that really affected my father emotionally.
But he went into Saigon during the time, or he stayed on board on the ship?
No, he stayed on board of the ship.
Sorry.
Yeah, he
I mean, he never went into Saigon. He
no,
just
he
stayed.
didn't go into. No, he did not. He had to stay on the ship at all times.
But what kind of, I mean, what kind of story did he told you about Saigon during that time? Did he view all the chaos and the helicopter flying in and out and the shootings and the
Yeah, well,
lootings?
he didn't. I mean, you saw the album that I sent you, right?
Hmm.
Did you see the pictures of the album that I
Yeah,
sent you?
yeah, I saw some, but I also see some. I had more because I met a lot of people in Vietnam who didn't live Vietnam, who didn't have a chance to live. And I saw different views, different photos, and I also know war journalists who went there and stay behind there. And all with those photos you have is like the picture of chaos, you know, like
Oh,
everybody want to get away and nobody had nowhere to go, It was like, and I think a lot of people got betrayed because the evacuation came too late. It was like in the last moment, and there were so many people who want to get away, and you could only take a limit and amount of people in one time. You cannot only fill up a helicopter with a certain amount of people. You can only fill up a ship with 9,000 people. I mean, you
yeah.
cannot take everybody up with a one big hand and remove them to the US or somewhere else. It's not possible because it came too
Did
late.
you did you ever see the documentary called Last Days in Vietnam?
Yeah, I know, with the Ken Burns, I think.
With it was produced by Rory Kennedy.
Something like that, yeah, yeah. But
You,
that's a very good. I mean, I saw all the programs and I read the book called Decent Intervals.
yeah.
There's a book with one guy who worked for the CIA before in Saigon. He
Oh
wrote
yeah, yeah.
you know. And he
Yeah.
wrote a very good book about what happened during the final days. And it's fun because I bought the book in a paperback. You know where I bought the book? In Saigon.
Oh,
I
really?
told you. It's true. And it says exactly what your father told you. The end of the chaos, the confusion. People was waiting on the helicopter pads. Nobody come and pick them up because nobody was there left, and it was like America just want to get away and don't tell anybody anything because there's nowhere to help anybody.
No, I think what I see now is obviously there's a lot of Vietnamese living in America.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and the ones that I meet, I always ask, were their parents part of the situation? In almost all the cases, they say yes.
That's some story I had to ask you about because David, I mean, it's your father's story, but it's also your story because when I started getting in touch with you on Facebook, I saw I read about your story and you had some special connection to some of those Vietnamese your father
Well,
helped.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
never call like your family, your friends, because I mean, they don't know who you are, but you know who they are. In some way, you got in touch with those people. You have special story, and your story have been shared on the news, on
yeah,
different articles, and I think it's very wow. I mean, the legacy of your father still keep moving on from generation to generation, from your side, from the Vietnamese side, and maybe from your kids and your grandkids. And I mean, your father, he's become more than just a human being.
yeah. It's interesting when I started meeting people, Vietnamese here in America. I had asked all the questions. Were you during the fall? And some of them stayed there and then eventually came back to the States.
Mhm.
But I guess about 14 years ago, I started going to a a cardiologist,
Mhm.
and he's Vietnamese,
Wow.
and he's like 54, 50, 55,
Just
56.
like me.
Well, so I asked him, I said, were you involved in the fall of Saigon? Because he lived in Vietnam,
Mhm.
and he told me he was 4 years old, his
Wow.
sister was 2 years old, and their mother and father ended up going on one of the ships.
Wow.
And I
That's
went,
crazy.
so I asked if his mother and father remember the ship, but they didn't. So
No.
because I was thinking maybe they were on the same ship as my
Mhm.
dad's, but
Wow.
not the case. But I've talked to so many different Vietnamese, and some of the stories I hear from them, the challenges, um, they've gone through, and of course the you saw the interview that I did with on PBS.
Yeah.
Okay, I did that with a Vietnamese, and
Yeah.
he wrote a book about it.
Yeah.
And that book is very fascinating. He tried to escape Vietnam. He finally escaped, I think, in 1979, but he tried 11 different times to escape. And he finally made it on the 11th try.
Wow. But so when the war was end and your father went to took all those people to different refugee camps to Guam and
Yeah,
Philippines, wherever, how did your father feel after the war was end when he came back to the US? Did your father feel bitterness, sadness, or
very
had
sad.
trauma?
Yeah, very sad. You could tell it had a major effect on him emotionally. And
Mm,
you could tell he was depressed.
mm,
But at the same time, he was still, you know, going to sea. It's just that he wasn't going to Vietnam. He was going to Europe or something like that
mm,
uh, as a captain of the ship because he stayed captain of different ships
Wow.
until 1981, I think. And then
But but but
he
had you ever had any feelings about going to Vietnam? Like you, I mean, I know you say you're not young anymore, but if you can go on an airplane today, if you had a chance to go to Saigon, would you go to see what the place where your father went by ships and maybe had the
I've
feeling?
not really. I mean, I probably would go if I had more time,
Mm,
but I have obligations here.
sure, I understand that.
I mean, my father-in-law lives with us,
All right.
and he's 88 years or almost 89 years old.
Wow. Yeah, I
So
understand.
we don't go too we don't go very far.
It made good sense when that age, and then you had your health issues and stuff like that. So it made good sense. But do you think like
But
do
I
you
mean, I
think
did
that
a lot of traveling.
okay?
I did. I mean, when I was in the Air Force, I
Hmm.
was stationed in from 1966 to 1970
Hmm.
in Germany,
All right,
and I was stationed in Darmstadt, Germany, near Frankfurt.
all right,
And I was there for almost 40 months, and I would work 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks they gave us 4 days off.
nice.
So those 4 days, I'd travel all over Europe.
Wow, that's a good way of living the life.
Yeah. So I got to do all my traveling when I was younger. And
Wow.
then after I graduated from college, I started traveling again
Mhm.
because my business was um, making me either go to Europe or to South America.
Wow, that's nice. So, do
I
you think is your father looking down from heaven and to see all the Vietnamese, what happened to those people he helped? You think he could have kind of feel proud of what he did? Besides all the sadness, all the things. I mean, he didn't help the people because he found it, wow, it's funny to do this thing. He had to do it because if those people, he don't help those people, something bad happened to them. So he was like, not an obligation, but it was kind of a sense of duty to do this, what he had to do, no matter how dangerous it was.
Yeah, I mean that was his obligation.
Mm,
He had a job to do, and he's always
exactly.
felt that way. And he was never one to talk about
Wow.
it. That's he says, "This is my job. I'm here to serve,
Mm.
like we all are, some way or another."
True. But did he have any special story to tell you? Any story just like, I mean, I guess he had a lot of stories to tell you, or maybe no stories. Did he have any special moment to share with you that was different from any moments? Any?
No, not really. I mean, what was in that album uh,
Mm-hmm.
is basically the stories that he did talk about when he came home. When they had Viet Cong on the ship and so on.
That's crazy. I mean, sorry to interrupt you. He had a Viet Cong on the Vietnamese American refugee ship. It doesn't, I mean, it's even more crazy than crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, basically what they were trying to do was try to commandeer the
Wow.
ship. And there was a couple of them that wanted. They went to the chief officer and they said, "We want to take this ship back to Saigon."
What? Wow.
And my father and the chief officer said, "We are not going to Saigon."
No more. That's it. But
Yeah.
how did you feel your father on when the Saigon fell? I mean, did he ever told you how he felt that moment? Because I guess he was on the sea taking all the refugees away, and here on the radio, Saigon had been renamed Ho Chi Minh City,
It was
and
just, I mean, he was not one for communicating his feelings.
uh,
He kept it inside
mm,
to himself. Uh, but I mean, he retired at 61, um, and he basically he basically uh, lived for another 8 years
wow,
or 7 years after that.
Wow.
Sorry, my dog is greeting my wife.
I know, I can imagine that. That's okay. But I mean, so I know you had a lot of things on the internet about your life and the things your father did, and I had a lot of links you sent to me, the album, and I think when I'm done doing this conversation, I will add all these links so people can read more about what we've been doing and about your father's life because it's interesting. Those small stories, and not everybody knows about. People always knows about the famous photo about the helicopters land on the roof, checking out people, and the helicopter
Yeah.
landing of the U.S. Embassy or the Tan Son Nhut Air Base in Saigon. But not everybody knows about David's father, who saved
No, I mean
23,000
that
Vietnamese.
it's interesting. I didn't know about it either. But what happened was, um, I just started. Let's see. Yeah, I just graduated from college about 2 years after that. Yeah, 2 years before he did was in Vietnam or 60 in 1975. And it was interesting. I was at my new house. I just finished building a new house, and I was over at the house painting. And my mom tried to call me, but of course, we didn't have cell phones then. And
Uh,
of course, I wasn't home. And she says, your dad's going to be on TV.
what?
So she, basically, I didn't know about the fact that he was going to be on TV till
Oh.
later. And it was interesting, I guess about 10 years ago,
Mhm.
my daughter was doing research about my dad on the internet. And it turns out she was able to find that there was uh, the video I think I sent you where he
Mhm.
was interviewed on CBS and NBC.
Yeah, yeah, no.
She found that at an archive, TV archive
Wow.
at Vanderbilt University. So
Wow.
she sent me the website. So I contacted Vanderbilt and they sent me a copy of that video.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so when I saw that one, I hadn't seen that since 1970. I mean, I never saw it.
David, I'm really happy you had to take the time because I know you are a very busy daddy, granddaddy, and much more. And you have been very patient with me doing my lack of know how to do using technology. But I really appreciate you taking time. And I think the people who knows about Vietnam and don't know about your father's story will like the story because after all, how many Vietnamese in America had this life thanks to you that thanks to your father. I mean, one man saved 23,000 people plus children, grandchildren, great grandchildren.
Yeah,
That's
there were even six babies were born on his ship during
wow,
going from Saigon to Guam, and it
wow.
was interesting when I did the PBS interview. Um, I tried to reach out to see if they're still around, but I nobody contacted me.
But David, when I say to I say first, I will say thanks for the interview, and I will say to anybody who watched this program, if you had any relative who have been on the same ship as David's father had been captain on, please contact me, or I will add the links for all the information that David sent to me for different pages and PBS and the TV shows and so if anybody wants to know more on how to reach out to David, it would be fun if David be able to meet some of
I'd be
those
more
relatives
perfect. I'd be more than happy to share.
and close the circles.
Thank you.
David, thank you so much, and I appreciate it too much.
Thank you. You have a great
Bye.
day. Bye bye.